Hey everybody, good morning. It's Pete. Welcome to today's episode of Stocks for Breakfast. It is Friday ahead of 3-day weekend, Memorial Weekend. Hopefully everybody's being safe right now. If you find these videos helpful, absolutely click down and subscribe. You'll get updates for new videos that come out. We actually put out at least two Monday through Friday. One is Stocks for Breakfast, and the second one you definitely don't want to miss, which is today's best stock picks. It's the trades heading into that week, that day actually, what we think that have the greatest profit potential for anybody who's an active trader, specifically day traders. But all of the ideas that we call out are typically swing trade ideas first, where we would hold them over longer periods of time. So whether or not you're a day trader or a swing trader, doesn't matter. They apply to both of you. It's really actually how you would apply each of the types of opportunities to your particular situation. So what we're going to talk about today, I think, is an interesting topic. We had this brought up for a new member of our boot camp yesterday, somebody in the coaching room, and he basically said, I can't find good ideas. That's why I came into the program in the first place. Finding good ideas is actually easy. Managing good ideas is the skill. That's the hard part of actually learning how to make money as a trader. So what we're going to do today is we're going to cover how to find good ideas, and then ultimately to determine whether or not it's a tradable idea. And then the third step, which we're not going to cover today, is actually how to make money on that idea. So what's interesting is there's so many stocks that actually meet the criteria for a good idea. But then you have to see if it's a tradable idea, because there's criteria in a scan, and then there's how much room does the trade still have to go? In other words, is it still tradable? If I buy it today, for example, what are the odds of the profit target justified in exchange for accepting risk? I'll give you an example. We had a trade in, I believe it was Square. Let me take a look at the chart. I'll pull it up real quick. Yeah, let me pull that up before we get into the actual scan, and I'll show you what I mean. So we've been trading Square long for about a week, and very strong. Obviously, you can see on the chart there. However, going back a bit, you can see that it's having a hard time with this level regardless. So although we were trading it long up here, we kept mentioning and specifically mentioned that it was still a good opportunity long. Long means a buying opportunity, but it was limited in profit potential. So what we're going to discuss is when stocks meet the criteria, but then you have to take that next step and determine if you should be involved in that. And if not, then it goes into your watch list and you determine when. But the most important thing we're going to talk about today is you need to have certain criteria before you even get in the trade, based on your personal risk profile, account size, and various other things that we're going to talk about now. And the two biggest things that we need to determine as traders are liquidity, so that for two reasons: liquidity so we can manage risk, and the second reason, I use my fingers, the second reason is that there is consistent average daily, weekly, and monthly activity by what we call the smart money, which means that there's good consistent volume every day, which creates the second part of the scan, which is opportunity. So there's always balancing risk with opportunity, and the opportunity part in the way that we run our scans is known as average true range. So we want to know how much a stock normally moves from the low to the high over a certain period of time, so that we actually have an opportunity to make money. Now, a lot of traders, and again, this is all dependent on how long you hold a trade, far too many traders have an average true range that's too low, and they feel, well, if it doesn't move that much, I'm going to limit my risk. But the problem with that is you're also limiting your profits. So average true range will really give you an idea of how much it moves, and then you have to determine, is a stock matching your personal profile. You have your experience, your risk, your education, your trading capital, your all of those things that go into the equation. So I'm going to jump into the scans. We're going to use a free software. I don't get anything for using this software. It's just, I'm going to show you what I use on a pre-market and post-market basis to determine my ideas. And then when the day and the week unfolds, I go over just using my charting platform. So we're going to head straight over into the software called FinViz. It's very popular. A lot of people use it. And again, I'm showing you the free version, and you'll know that as soon as I start clicking around because of the amount of ads. So everything I'm showing you right now is applicable to stock traders. So we're going to start out with the main criteria. I'm going to click over here on all. And the first thing I'm going to do is click stocks only. So I'm going to eliminate ETFs and anything else that's not a stock. Now, here's where the criteria starts to really drill itself in. We're going to, for argument's sake, I'm just going to put it over $10. So I'm going to stay away from penny stocks or anything. I generally don't trade stocks that are that low priced for the same reason, because I need a certain amount of volatility over shorter periods of time as an active trader. If it's a position trade, something I plan on holding a little bit longer, no sweat, you can definitely get involved in some of those stocks. But for the purposes of what we're talking about now, we're really addressing the active trader. Somebody might buy something today and get out on 5 days from now or even 3 weeks from now, but that'll have a certain expectancy. My personal window is that 1 to 5 day window where I'm looking to catch that next move, get out and put my money back to work. So that's the minimum criteria. So actually what's interesting is if I remove these two, we just went from 7,600 stocks down to 2,962. So I'm going to pull that off of there again just so you can see that. So the totality in this scan is 7,639. Break it down by stocks only, so we're eliminating ETFs and anything else, and bringing it all the way down to, it must be over $10. So you can see, again, good proof here. It's the free version. I would never teach you something you can't use, right? So we break it all the way down. Now here's where it gets interesting. I use average volume criteria for liquidity. Remember we said we want consistent daily action and weekly action by the smart money, so they're involved in the stock on a regular basis, which creates the opportunity, but it also creates liquidity that we can get in or out of the stock with relative ease. Now, again, extreme market conditions change liquidity, spreads widen, and all of that kind of stuff. We're talking about just as a scan, right? So what I normally do is I look for my stocks to have an average daily volume of at least 2 million per day. You can go lower than that, or I should say, I go lower than that, maybe 1 million or more if I'm only looking for a stock that I'm going to build a position in and I don't necessarily need to get in or out relatively quickly. But just as I would say 90%, if not 95% of the stocks that I trade, I have an true average volume, average daily volume of over 2 million. So that brought it all the way down to 648 stocks. We just whittled it down. We just got rid of 90% of the potential opportunities. Now we're going to bring it down even further, which is average true range. Average true range represents the low to the high and how much it normally moves. And most softwares default to the 14 period average true range. So that basically means the average low to the high over the previous 14 days. And for me, I use over 1.5. So that means an average of 1.5 from the low to the high or more. It's not only 1.5, it's over 1.5. So some stocks might move $1.50 per day on average from the low to the high. That's not the close. That's not the change in the close. It's the distance it travels intraday from the low to the high. Some stocks could move $40 average true range. So I'll just pick one as an example. For no reason at all, go to ADSK, and you'll see over here the average true range is $7. So you get an idea of minimum of $1.50 up to maximum, really. And obviously, as the market expanded and exploded with the pandemic, the average true ranges expanded dramatically. Now, what's interesting about average true range, you can also use that for profit targets. You can also use that to determine your share size, because as the volatility expands, the size of the moves expand. So to trade properly, you are going to reduce your share size as the risk and the volatility expands to trade the same dollar amount. So it's a dollar amount you're willing to risk, and then the share size appropriate for that volatility. So keeping an eye on average true range matters. So you can see 381 stocks meet the criteria of stocks only, average true range of $1.50, 2 million, and $10. So out of everything we could possibly be looking at, That's what came up in the scan. So now you can even take it a little bit deeper. You could actually say, okay, which stocks do I want to trade today or this coming week that traded their average volume yesterday? So that would actually be relative volume. So now we're going to say we only want to trade stocks that traded what they normally did or more. So we're actually going to expand a little bit. So now we're going to say which stocks traded 1.5 times what they normally do. So what would that tell us? That would tell us that those stocks were active yesterday and we'd be looking for follow through today. So we're going to go down to over 1.5. So we're going to go from 381 stocks down to 25. So now we're going to actually sort this by change, and we're going to look at it from both sides of the market, and we're going to take a look at those charts. So now what we mentioned before is a scan criteria versus a tradable idea. So you would take a look at all of these stocks and see which ones meet your personal criteria. Have they extended too far? Do they still have room to go? Are they just breaking out of a trading range now? They're just breaking out and looking for the next move. Or have they extended dramatically with massive volume increase where the move might be done and then you'd have to wait for the market to pause? So you can see where there's the scan and then whether or not it's a trade right now. So last but not least, we're going to talk about, I'm going to remove the average daily, the relative volume. Now we're going to talk about recognizing trades that had opportunity and has current momentum, stocks that you want to get involved in. So we're going to break this down just a little bit further, and we're going to take a look at performance, and we're going to take a look at performance for the week of positive 10%, and that whittled it down to 85 stocks. So that means over the last week, the last 5 trading days, these stocks are up by at least 10%. We're going to even drill it down even further, and we're going to say which stocks changed from the open was at least 2% positive. So now 34 stocks meet that criteria. So think about what we just did. Stocks are up 10% for the week, and yesterday it traded positively from the open here and was at least 2% higher from the open. So those are stocks that had good activity yesterday and the last 5 trading days. So now you would go into, let's take, for example, SE, which came up in that scan. And one of our guys in the room yesterday traded this very well yesterday, Jerry. You can see that it met the criteria. And these are the kind of trades that fall into your lap. Now, what's interesting is if we actually do the opposite, and I'll actually just do week down. I don't even have to do week down percentage. And close down, the size of that list is going to be dramatically smaller than obviously the bullish stocks, as most stocks have been running and heading up to the upside over the last 5 to 7 days. So you can see that the size is not as big as it is on the other side. So let's expand that a little bit, because just down, it could be down a penny. So yeah, you see it actually went to 3 stocks. So the point I want to get across here is that you need your criteria that matches what you do. And I just gave you mine. It's a relatively safe one for me personally, because having traded for 20 years, you start to get a feel for the stocks that you're trading. And you have a universe that you trade day in and day out, week in and week out. And then you run scans to see if any other stocks might meet the criteria that you could start to trade a little bit in with less shares. And then if it trades the way you feel comfortable with it and you're making money, then you can start to add that stock to your list and take out the ones that you might not be making money in. Or maybe those stocks just are out of favor and they're dead right now and there's really nothing you can do. And then maybe they're in a trading range and you're like, I need something else that's actually going to move. So that's actually the criteria. So we just covered the first 2 parts, which is the scan and then looking to see if it's a trading opportunity. The last part is actually what we cover in our private community, which is actually turning those opportunities into profitable trades. So hopefully that answers the question that we got asked yesterday, which is, how do I find good ideas? And like I said, finding good ideas is actually easy. It's turning those ideas into money. That's the skill. That's the lifelong skill that makes you into the money-making asset that hopefully you're working on and finding the answers that you need. If not, look, click down below and learn more about our bootcamp. But that's a good foundation to start. If you have any questions, absolutely leave a comment. If you have scan ideas that you personally find helpful, that work for you, leave that in the comments too. Maybe you can help some other people using some of the things that you do. This is just what happens to be what works for me. So have a great day, everybody. Have an awesome Memorial weekend, and click down to subscribe if you find these videos helpful. I really appreciate it. Take care.